Minutes of the last meeting of 23rd of March. Has everyone looked at the minutes? Any corrections? Additions? Are we good with the minutes of the last meeting? If
Yes.
so, would someone make a motion to accept the minutes of the last meeting?
I make a
John, you're
motion.
on mute.
I'm on mute.
John is on mute.
John. You're on mute, John.
Unmute.
All right, there you go.
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we accept the minutes from the last meeting.
Thank you.
I'll
Second,
second it.
all in
Jamie?
favor? Aye.
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 I wasn't at the meeting, so
Okay.
Welcome.
thank you. Nice to be here.
You say that now.
We'll see.
All right, we have Brian Cruey. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing your name correctly from
You are, thank
Namkeg.
you. Yes.
And
Brian.
there was we've had a citizen comment about drainage and work being done on the Namkeg property.
Yes, and the work that is taking place there now is a continuation of the work we started in the fall, replacing the main water and sewer that comes off of Church Street and goes up the hill into the house. So this was a huge project that we coordinated with, I think, just about every department in town. So this was pretty well planned, and we are finishing that up. We did what we could until the snow fell, and then we've been finishing it up this spring. So we've done a lot of work on the drainage around Namkeg coming off of Prospect Hill Road. This included restoring the ravines on both the north and south side of the property that we did in collaboration with the town again, and with a grant that we got from the EPA, as well as the Fitzpatrick Foundation. We worked on the drainage coming down off of the side between us and Tavidian, coming down around the barn and then out into the field. There is a drainage ditch that comes across the property along the southern field that drains out into the river under Church Street that we don't maintain regularly. That's not something that we've ever really done. It always seems to drain pretty well. Of course, during rainy, wet times, it does tend to, get very wet down there. But for the most part, that drainage it seems to be working fine. So drainage is a constant issue at Namkeg that we, address as much as we can and are as diligent with as we can. And if there's an additional plan that we want to discuss regarding that drainage ditch along that lower field, we'd be happy to do that.
The citizen who contacted us suggested that there was not adequate erosion control.
We do have straw wattling up coming down the hill where we replace the water and sewer lines. This is between the barn and the hoop house that we have there. It kind of goes all the way up to where we have our parking area. So there is erosion control on the steeper, hillier side of the property where the work was done.
Brian, is the excavation areas covered with straw or some other material to hold it in place? Yeah.
We have that erosion control coming down the hill, but we are intending to plant that. We just started to do work again to kind of finish the regrading of that area where they had to dig up the road and are putting back in some gravel and other material to kind of build that area back up to where it was.
I'm more concerned with the sloped areas.
Hmm.
Is that not gonna gather water and start to run down the hill or anything?
It shouldn't. Like I said, we do have the straw, waddling there across, coming down the hill. So that soil should not move.
So I'm curious, why was the citizen complaining? Was water going through the straw wattles?
Not that we've seen. No.
Do you know, Sally, why she was complaining?
I would have to go back and look again. It was it was a while ago.
Okay.
I had a brief discussion with one of the Church Street neighbors about this the other day. I don't know if he's the same one that talked to or left a message or whatever, but he voiced concern that there wasn't erosion control that would slow down any movement of soils from rainstorms. So
As I remember it, that was the only, that was the complaint or concern.
I'm guessing it's probably the same person, Sally.
I'm guessing it is as well. I forwarded that to you. So,
I mean, we would certainly be happy to show anyone, what we have in place. And if it's determined that we need more, we'd be happy to do that as well. Again, then we plan on, now reseeding that and hopefully replacing it with vegetation that'll, secure that soil for good. So that's all kind of in the works. We're just waiting for things to finish up with that project. It was a long one coming. So.
All right, well, I suggest probably that as soon as you can, you seed it and straw it or secure it with some sort of mulching material or something like that, just to keep everything in place. And I think everyone will be happy after that.
Hey,
Sure.
Ron,
Yes.
you mind if I just go take a look, Brian?
Please, you're welcome to. It's
It
beautiful
might-
up there right now.
it might not be a bad idea for us to just do a site visit on
I would
that.
like that.
And I would love for you guys to do a site visit. It's really, I mean, the work there, that we have completed over the past almost 4 years now, just with the drainage, now replacing the water and sewer lines, the work behind the barn. It's really come together very nicely. It's quite an improvement over what it was. So we'd be happy to show that off.
What are you thinking of planting?
Last year we have 2 flower beds that we plant there, and then below that we're thinking of doing either a wildflower meadow mix or just some grasses that we can let grow.
Okay, I have the communication from the citizen who says there's been ongoing construction project at Nomkeg with extensive excavation and no erosion controls. They have dug through on both sides of the waterway, which carries drainage from the Marion Fathers to Prospect Hill Road. They've also failed to maintain the waterways through the pastures for years. So for whatever that's worth, that was the comment.
Would that waterway be the one that parallels Church Street?
It's kind of perpendicular to Church Street. It kind of hits it. It's kind of at an odd angle. It's not parallel, no.
I mean, we've had issues with what comes off Prospect Hill for years, not just Nomkeg, but the Tavidian property and now the Fitzpatrick, what was the Fitzpatrick property, because there's just, water runs downhill. So if you live on Church Street, you are undoubtedly going to feel the impact of that water coming down. But I think it would be good for us to take a look, for committee members to take a look.
Yes, and like I said, we would really, we'd welcome that opportunity to show you that work. And, we've been pretty sensitive to our Church Street neighbors, with that water that does come off our property. And it has been a huge difference over the past, 2 years since we've repaired that ravine and slowed that water down coming off of that. Especially that north culvert is really, it's dramatic. The difference.
All right,
And then if
Thursday is usually a good day for us to.
Well, nowadays it needs to be Friday if we're going to have a quorum there.
All right. I'm good with Fridays.
So can we do Friday morning sometime, Brian? Would that work for you?
yes, that should work for me. Let me just do a quick check. Yes, I'm available Friday morning. Yeah.
Or do we want to set a time?
10 o'clock?
10 o'clock would be great.
11:59.
Yeah.
All
Where-
right, so
where on the property?
site visit, how do you want us to come?
What time? I don't care.
10 o'clock off of Church Street? Is that the best way to see this, or?
Either way, I'd have you park. We'd have you come in either the Church Street entrance is fine. That's great.
Okay.
Or, up the back drive. I'm happy to open the front gate too, if you'd like to come in via the front, if that's easier.
If we do that, then we have to walk down and then up the hill again.
Oh, Ron.
Let's start off at the low spot. We go as high as we need to go and look up, and then we walk back. Church Street.
All right, 10 o'clock, Friday, 4/16.
And I will post it so that it is a posted meeting.
Thank you.
I might be in my bathrobe.
That's all right, as long as you have something on under it.
And would that be a good time too to discuss another project we were considering and wanted your opinion on?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, because it will be advertised, so that makes it a public hearing, which is good.
Excellent. Don't worry, Ron, that is also on the lower part of the property.
Okay.
Got your number, Ron.
Hopefully the weather's good.
Oh, it could be a doozy on Friday. I don't know.
Yeah, might
I also wanted to to take this opportunity to introduce everyone to Riley Meehan, who's on this call. He is our new stewardship manager at Namkeg. Many of you have probably worked with Jake Chase over the years. And he took a position as the facilities director at the Northampton Y, which is much closer to home for him. So Riley was promoted recently and has stepped into this role. So you'll probably be working with him quite a bit as well.
Congratulations and welcome, Riley.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Hi, Riley.
Well, if we see you at 10 o'clock, that'd be great.
I'll be
In person.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Thank you, Riley.
Thank you. We'll see you Friday.
All
Okay,
right.
Thank you.
And we have another SIP, Sally?
yes, Patrick knows about that. Maybe he can tell us. Patrick, is that the Stockbridge Industrial Park? You're muted.
You're still muted.
Yeah, that was just the one that was forwarded to me.
But is that the Stockbridge Industrial Park? Is that,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
I was a little unsure of the acronym.
yeah, no, like somebody sent some pictures in about cutting up to the bank. And there was some erosion, I guess, on the bank they were concerned with.
You know, in all reality, I have to recuse myself from this because I'm a tenant down there.
But do you have observations you could share with us?
I didn't go down there. Those weren't my photos.
Yeah,
I mean,
Ryan, or Patrick, why don't you tell us what you mean by cuttings up to the bank? I'm not sure.
I think that the concern was that some vegetation was cut right up to the edge of the bank and the bank was eroding into the river.
Boy, I mean, there's a big pile of brush down there, but I don't know. I haven't seen anybody out there cutting anything. But, you know, you might want to go down and take a look, everybody. I certainly will take a look further closer to the river.
Hey, I couldn't tell from the pictures that the person sent what the issue was. It was unclear to me.
I
They got
mean, what was explained to me was that the bank was literally eroding into the water because the vegetation had been cleared.
You know, as a private citizen, I'll comment on that. And I have not seen anyone anywhere near that bank. However, I launched a kayak with my 2 kids and my wife back probably, let's say 15 years ago. And we walked down that bank and it was pretty well eroded because the river comes around a corner right there and hits the right-hand side of the river, which is the Stockbridge Industrial Park, before it goes straight, and then it hits the left-hand side over near Mary Flynn Walkway. So I don't know. I mean, if there's a concern, I think people should go down there and take a look. I don't see anything in the way of cutting is going on there.
All right.
Maybe we could go on Friday after the site visit and take a look, because you know, the river could have done it all by itself.
Right? Yeah, I would believe that more than I would believe anybody down there cutting.
Sally, I'll take a ride down there tomorrow. I'll take a look. If it's something I deem that's something we really need to take a look at, we'll do it Friday. If I can't find anything, we just won't go, but.
Okay,
I'm not even sure where it was. I mean, obviously it's a 20-acre parcel. There's a fair amount of riverfront there.
Yeah.
yeah, like I said, it was unclear to me first of all, it was unclear what SIP was. It took me a long time to figure out what that was. And then I couldn't really see anything in the pictures that made sense to me.
All right, I'll do a drive-by tomorrow or the next day before Friday, and if we have time, if we only have 1 or 2 site visits Friday, we'll work it in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I'll put it on the agenda for Friday, and then we can either go or not, as the case may be.
That's good.
I'll take a closer look when I'm down at the Temple of Gloom.
All right,
Last but not least,
another one?
10 Rattlesnake Mountain Road, invasive species removal.
I went over
Oh.
there. I didn't see one single invasive species anywhere.
You
anywhere.
don't get to do anything because
There-
you're in a butter.
They're just clearing a view. That's all they're doing. No, it's covered with bittersweet and God.
But you're in a butter, so you can't talk about it.
All right, I recuse myself, but I've said what I had to say.
Joe went down and looked.
I went down and looked too.
I went down.
Thank you. So
You
you
want to hear what
noticed,
I saw down there, Sally?
sure.
Buckthorn, honeysuckle, and bittersweet, and it's loaded. And I think you
Mm-hmm.
should take it out.
And a bunch of dead trees.
And there's a
Yeah.
lot of dead trees, right, Jen?
Okay, I just wanted, you know, when you're a member of the commission, you just need to make sure that you aren't getting any special treatment, and that what we're doing is, you know, has been viewed and approved.
So I did have a question, Sally.
Yes.
You're doing it by hand?
Yes,
So will you still put some erosion control down right against the pond? Because
we
it is-
won't get anywhere, we won't get close to the pond. There's just, and I mean, if we're getting close to the pond and if it's pretty flat.
Yeah,
So I'm not really worried about erosion. We're not gonna unearth anything. We're
Okay.
not going to uproot anything. We're just going to go in with a chainsaw and some clippers.
okay, okay.
So there
And
won't be
after-
any roots that will come out or anything.
And there were a lot of dead trees. Are you thinking of removing all of them?
Well, a lot of them have already fallen.
Yeah, Because
Um,
it's good habitat.
No, there are a bunch of habitat trees which we're gonna leave. There's one in
Okay.
particular that I think of that's pretty big. It's probably, I don't know, 2 feet across. And it has no top at all.
Okay,
It just kind of has a point. It's a great habitat tree.
good.
Those, well, we won't touch those. I don't even know if we're gonna if we take down any trees, the only trees I think we're gonna take down are buckthorn. I
Okay.
think we're gonna leave the rest of them to do whatever they do. There might be an ash that we're looking at, but other than that, Mother Nature is gonna be the harvester.
Sounds good.
Sally, are you gonna burn the brush or just leave it lie?
We plan to burn it
All right,
up toward the house.
yeah.
With a flamethrower.
So it won't be anywhere near the pond.
On that note, can I ask a question of the commission? Within 100 feet of the, this is with regards to the Stockbridge Industrial Park. Within 100 feet of the Housatonic River, there is a monster, and I mean a monster burn pile that has all sorts of wonderful things in it. And it's within that 100 feet. And I remember way back when we were dealing with Chad McCormick down on Larry Wog Crossroad, and he had a burn pile that was down in a wetland, and we chastised him pretty well for doing that. And I'm wondering if somebody, what regulation is there? I'm ignorant here. What regulation is there that says that you can or cannot have a monster burn pile within 100 feet of the Housatonic River?
John, is this sort of in the parking lot or is it off the banking?
No, it's sort of off the parking lot. You'll see it when you're down there.
But did they clear to make the burn pile?
No. There are two different businesses down there that are they're landscaping businesses that are just dumping stuff that they cut while doing their work. And then one of the tenants who is not dumping anything in there goes over there and sets a match to it and lights it once a year and it burns up. That has yet to happen yet, but I just thought I'd bring that to the attention, being that the industrial park is on some sort of agenda.
It's just brush?
No.
I mean, is it stuff that it could conceivably contaminate the river?
Mhm.
You know, I have not seen anything. I mean, there are bureaus and there are pallets and there are,
Yeah, that's all
You
treated.
can't burn any of that.
Yeah, that's treated wood. That shouldn't
They
be.
can't burn that.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Zabian needs to be told that then. I
He
can't
has
tell him.
been told that,
Well,
but he could be told that again.
all right.
I'll have a conversation with the fire chief too.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, because if they're gonna burn, they're gonna have to get permission, so the fire chief should go down and take a look. And I will get in touch with Mohammed and say, hey, if you're thinking of burning that stuff, don't.
Well, he could weasel the furniture out of there. And then it'd be just brush.
Well, which I think would be probably fine. As long as it's okay with the fire department, but they can't be burning trash or furniture or whatever.
Mattresses and stuff like that.
I think that the one that we really went nuts over was when they were burning the tires in the wetland.
Mhm.
No, they're not doing that yet.
Yeah, they use them to get it going though.
He uses those logs that you buy at the thing to have a nice cozy fire. You know what I'm talking about? I think it's sawdust and compressed wax or something. I don't know.
Really? It goes to that expense, huh?
No, it's not Mohammed. That's the person who lights it up.
Yeah. I'm sure.
Okay,
All right, let's get to the public hearing.
Yeah, let's do that.
Certificate of compliance for, I gotta get more light. Hang on.
Just wipe your glasses off.
That doesn't work. I can't see the paper then.
Mark Volk said at the last meeting that he was gonna get on that certificate of compliance, so we could finally get it off the agenda.
Evidently, he hasn't then.
But I haven't heard from him. Jackson, do you know anything about that?
Unfortunately, I have not heard anything from Mark about that, but
Okay,
I can.
so then it's still pending.
Continued.
I don't know anything more about the tri-walk except for what Rob Ackroyd told me. So we should, I guess, be expecting that to come back to us, but nothing's come so far.
I have a question there. I drive Bean Hill Road a fair amount, but what does, where is this? I mean, it says lot 1.1 Bean Hill Road. I mean, there's the old Cooperman house there. Is it?
No, it's
before?
the other end of the road. It's
On
over
the
toward Highland.
west side, just after the little bridge there.
After the bridge?
Yep,
Yeah,
That's a swamp.
It's
yep.
wet, isn't it? So
there's enough high ground to build a smallish house. Maybe.
oh, a teeny house?
Mm-hmm. And that's why it was withdrawn, because it really was not a viable site the way they had it designed. But I think it could be if they were careful. So we're waiting to see that come back.
That's been almost 2 years now.
Yeah,
So they're pretty much starting from scratch.
pretty much. It'll be a whole new, I imagine it'll be a whole new design.
Next up,
That's where all the morels are.
Road. Certificate of compliance.
For what? Oh, Yatrid. Through.
Yatrib.
High School Road. That's Jackson?
Yep. Good evening, everyone. So I think we ended last meeting with the decision to issue an enforcement order, and you asked Foresight to draft that enforcement order, which we did. But I first wanted to just formally withdraw our previous notice of intent for this mitigation work, and we're proposing that work under this enforcement order with a proposed mitigation plan. And we drafted this list of suggested conditions that I will share on the screen here.
Can you, because I'm new on the commission, Jackson, can you just tell me what the violation was?
Sure.
Briefly, you don't have to go into detail, just briefly.
It's 20 years old and they were very naughty.
Okay, but a little more detail.
That's,
They wanted to redo the drainage, and in order to do that, they had to have a replication. They did the drainage, they did not do the replication.
Okay, thank you.
They didn't, they didn't follow through on the plans as they were permitted. So the commission's decided to issue an enforcement order, and that's kind of where we're at currently.
Okay.
So we've drafted that enforcement order for you and filled out the WPA Form 9 partially, apart from the portions the commission has to fill out. And we have our proposed mitigation plan, but I wanted to share with you first our list of suggested conditions for the enforcement order. Can you all see that on screen?
Yes.
See, I don't know if I can read it.
Put your glasses on.
Stop it.
Enforcement might be spelled wrong.
So
Enforcement.
Yeah, you need to retype.
It's an abbreviation.
oops. All right, well, I'll pick that. The initial, our first condition here was the initial proposed work will be begin before November 30th, 2021. That's just date that our clients have come up with. They'd much rather get things started immediately, so everything can grow over the spring and summer, before the fall and winter hits. But the most
We had,
important.
we had talked about June 21st.
Yeah, I mean, these are just our suggested conditions. So if that's the date, it's your decision. If that's the date you want to enforce, that's the date you move forward with. But we just had this suggested to get everything completed, in terms of having all of the plantings in and seeing some sort of success rate.
What's the size of the replication?
The proposed replication area is about 1,200 square feet, which I can show you on our site plan in just a second. And then there's an additional about 10,000 square feet of additional mitigation that we're proposing. But first I wanted to just highlight our the suggested condition, which I think is the most important, as we've talked about following through on these plantings, and that seems to be a concern of the commission. We wanted to state that one of the suggesting conditions for this order would be that the applicant would need to retain an environmental consultant that would oversee and report on every step of the mitigation process through the 2 years of 2 growing seasons, and report to the commission step by step throughout that process. So you're all informed and up to
So
date.
it needs to say the applicant shall retain a qualified environmental consultant acceptable to the Conservation Commission
Mhm.
to observe.
Okay, yeah, we can make any edits you want to this, and I can send you like a Word document of this file, so you can add what conditions you want in your official enforcement order.
Okay,
But that was one of the ones conditions that we felt would be important. And then, of course, a minimum 75% success rate of all of the plantings in the entire square footage. So I'll pull up our site plan now, just so we can bring you up to date on that as well. Can you all see the proposed site plan here?
Yes.
So
Oh,
what we're proposing, as you can see, is the original 1,200 square feet of required wetland replication that was lost in this area here. And then in addition to that, we're proposing these large areas of 10,000, roughly 10,000 square feet of mitigation area in these areas surrounding BVW. And we're also proposing any area that's mowed within this area right now is proposed to let itself revegetate naturally.
Are these plantings? Are these circles in here?
Yep, these gray areas and these dark planting symbols all stand for native plantings, which we're proposing that they would draw from this list of native species here. So there'd be approximately 10 tree plantings in that area, and then 135 shrub plantings. And then the entire wetland replication area will also receive a seed mixture.
So just one comment, given the insects, the hemlock insects in that area, you may want to reconsider hemlock.
Sure. Yeah, we just provide a list of plants that the applicant could choose from. But if you'd like to see that one taken off, we can do that.
probably go with white pine or something like that.
Sure. Yep, we could propose that.
I got a bunch of saplings up here if you want them.
Could be useful. Yeah, so we can take hemlocks off of that list.
Well, Jackson, if they want to treat them and take care of them, that's fine. They'll, but if you just plant them and abandon them, the chances of their survival is not
Right.
looking too good.
Okay. Yeah, I think the intention is to try to plant these plantings and let this area naturally revegetate as it does. So maybe getting eastern hemlock off the list wouldn't be a bad idea, just to make sure this is a naturally low maintenance area. So yeah, we were just hoping we could issue the enforcement order with our suggested list of conditions for the commission. And there's quite a few more I didn't go over, including erosion control things, and the commission will be allowed access to the site throughout the proposed work and the following 2 growing seasons.
Can you move it so I can see the whole thing? I can't see it. There you go. Thank you.
No problem. And so, yeah, the commission will be able to inspect whenever they reasonably choose to do so. And there's also a second page here just with a few extras, a list of conditions and all contracts. So any kind of title transference or deed transference, this would go along with it. Not that that would be an issue, but we just wanted to make sure we cover all of the bases here so that this enforcement order gets the work done.
How does that happen in Stockbridge? Does it go, is it put in with the deed?
You can require this enforcement order to be recorded at the registry of deeds. Currently, the
Yeah.
outstanding order of conditions is still attached to the property deed from the year 2000. So that's still attached to the property deed no matter who buys it. So this will
So
always travel with the property.
This would go into, attached to the deed?
Yeah, this enforcement order would reference that order of conditions DEP file number, and they would be attached to the deed. So any kind of title transference would make sure that this stays with the property and gets done.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to be particularly important, as I understand it, that this property is changing hands.
It is changing hands very soon. I don't know the full details on that, but it is changing hands very soon. But the current owner, Yathrib Ltd, is going to be financially responsible for this portion of mitigation work.
I believe that, I think it already changed hands. It looks like the card says that closed on 12/23/2020.
Well, there you go.
I have a question for the commission. This number 3 says successful planting established within 2 growing seasons. Do you monitor for 5 years? And ask for replacements if things die within 5 years?
We have not at this point.
It's not a bad idea because some things last a year or 2 and then don't. As long as we have the option of doing the enforcement order, I would say make it more than 2 years.
This, the 75% is just the minimum established by the Wetlands Protection Act. So if the commission wanted to enforce something more strict or a longer period of time, that could be included in this enforcement order.
I don't have a problem with it, but 5 years down the road is.
How about 3?
Yeah, we have done 3 quite often, but we've never gone as far as 5,
Okay.
to my knowledge anyway.
Let's change it to 3. That's a little better.
All right.
I think in
Do
3
3.
years, if this work happens soon, that whole area will be vastly revegetated with native plants. So, yeah, we're hoping we can get this enforcement underway so they can grow all spring and summer.
So do we want to, we had talked at the last meeting about having this get going by, I mean,
First day of summer.
we were kind of cranky about this, and we said that we wanted this done by, or begun by June 21st. Or we were going to start finding them $100 a day. Do we want to go ahead with that June 21st date?
Jackson, what sort of landscaping prep work has to be done before this planting can start?
A minor amount of grading work. I can show you our site plan again here. So yeah, a minor amount of grading located right around here, these proposed contours. So there'll be a little bit of grading, and then it'll just be maybe some scraping off of the very top of topsoil to get some good topsoil exposed for planting. There's kind of just low grass there right now.
So you basically got to remove sod? That type of
Yeah, I
thing?
think there'll have to be some sod removal and some grading, and then it'll just be all planting from there on. And obviously, the installation of these proper drainage features as they were proposed to be and permitted to be installed in 2000. And that will be feeding this wetland replication area.
So the drainage features haven't been started yet?
And as part of this work not being done correctly, this pipe was installed way back and it was just outletted over here inside the BVW. And that's not what was permitted. So what we're proposing now is to cut that and install this little yard drain and this swale here, which will feed the wetland replication area as it was permitted to be installed in 2000. So basically just matching what was permitted in 2000 with quite a few extra mitigation plantings. And that's about it.
And one more tree question, Jackson. What trees are there now?
There's a large white pine in this area where my cursor is. That's not shown, and then there's some dying ash trees around it. But other than that, there's not much in front of this tree line here.
And
So
what,
there's a few trees there now, but we're proposing to plant about 10 more.
So Jackson, if this plan is finalized, then you need to get your contractor in there to start work. What's it now?
Yep. I mean, if the
April.
commission, yeah, it's April 13th today. So if the commission wants things started by the June 21st date, I think it's soon, but it's achievable. I think the property owners want to get things rolling immediately anyway.
All right, so do you think it's possible too? So we're gonna stick with the June 21st.
I just would like to be clear though, that's for the start of work?
Yes,
Okay, and then so you could add whatever conditions you so choose to, and we could stick to that June 21st date as a start date.
That way you'll get most everything in for one growing season.
Mhm.
Next year you would modify, replant if anything died in the third year.
Yep.
Everything should be.
Yep. Actually, on our suggested conditions list, it states that anything that's observed as not successfully planted, that's dead, needs to be replaced within 3 months of observation.
and,
But
Was
that,
it-
those are just our suggested conditions. The commission still needs to issue their official enforcement order with the official list.
and is there, in that enforcement order, is there time for the commission to come and see how things are going? I didn't catch
Yep.
that.
One of our suggested conditions was that the commission will be, first of all, notified at multiple points throughout the process, like after erosion controls are installed, before planting, after planting is complete. And then the commission, one of our other conditions was the commission to be allowed access to the site upon their request throughout the two-year growing process, which you could extend to 3 if you'd like to.
3. Yeah, I'd like it to be 3.
So yeah, you can include all of those things in a list of conditions when you issue the official enforcement order.
All right, any other comments, questions? All right. We have to close out the first certificate of compliance, I believe, and then start anew.
Well, they've withdrawn their notice of intent.
Correct.
So we're going to issue the enforcement order, which will be issued on the original order of conditions
Yep.
that was not done according to the orders.
Mhm.
And
And
once that's completed, in 3 years, they can come back to us for the certificate of compliance on the original project. So they don't get their certificate of compliance until they have completed the 3 years.
So
Yes.
that'd be 2023
Or
or, sorry, whatever. I'm a year behind.
if we're still here,
There's some doubt on that.
Lord,
And,
Lord willing, and the creek don't rise.
All right,
I emailed those suggested conditions in the draft enforcement order to you earlier, Sally, just so you have those
Yeah,
materials.
thank you, Jackson.
No problem. Thank you all.
all right.
My only comment on this one is that the reality is that the property has already changed hands. So I think we should be sensitive to not penalize the new owner for the sins of the past owner. So, I'm not suggesting any change in course, but a little bit of understanding that we're not dealing with the person who did the 20-year violation. He's already sold the property.
Yeah, but they bought it knowing this was the case.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Buyer beware.
Okay. Jackson, while you're right here, what else you got on for here?
I have a notice of intent on Prospect Hill Road for Bethany.
Oh, yeah.
Blue. What's that?
I remember that one.
And then I just also have a request for determination of applicability on Lake Drive.
I am recused on the Prospect Hill property.
We had a site visit. A few of us went to. I don't have a problem with it, really. Planning board had a site visit following week, I believe.
My understanding that there were some questions from the planning board about the length of the driveway. Did that change anything?
No, that's what the special permit application was for. The driveway exceeded the 500-foot limit, but we got a special permit issued from the planning board last week, so that's that permit has been issued. And I can pull up the site plan here if you'd like to see that one more time.
Anyone like to see it? Jackson, put it up for 2 minutes.
There it is. So yeah, we did our best to keep the driveway away from buffer zones as much as possible and reduce impacts. So if you have any other questions, I could answer them.
I'm fine with it. Anyone else? Thoughts, insights, questions?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, John.
I understand that they've got a cul-de-sac down there to turn around at their house. And I guess the dotted line represents the property that they're buying. Is that correct?
Yes, this kind of double dashed line around the outside here with these measurements along the edge. It's a little tough to see on Zoom screen.
I see it. How many acres total is this piece of property?
It's about 10.2 acres.
So theoretically, with enough frontage on that cul-de-sac road, they could build 2 more houses.
It's really wet.
They could, except the planning board has as part of their special permit issued that this driveway will never serve as a common driveway, and the lot will not be subdivided.
Okay.
So they put the squash on that.
Heart's good on that.
It's also really wet in a lot of places, John. I think they would be hard pressed to try and do that.
Yeah, it's explosive in other places.
Explosive?
Yeah, a gas line runs through there for crying out loud.
No, it doesn't. It's nowhere near it.
It misses it
Well,
by a few feet.
It's on a totally separate piece of, yeah, where Jackson has the cursor.
yeah,
That's where the gas line goes through it. Then it goes over into what was my mother's property and through our property.
yeah. Yeah, well, tell the people, what is it, Marblehead or wherever that was, north of Boston?
All right. Let's
I
have,
said, do we want to close this?
we'll make a motion to close this hearing.
I'll second it. Oh, no, I'll make a motion to close the hearing. Sorry.
I'll second it.
Second it.
Any more discussion? Otherwise, we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you all.
All right.
Thank you.
In the dark. Jackson, did you have another one that you wanted to talk to us about? Where was it?
Prospect Hill. I think.
Cough
Anyone?
at 46 Lake Drive.
Correct. I was just hoping I could talk to you about that request for determination of applicability.
Yeah.
So I'll pull up our site plan real quick here. It's a little bit of a cheesy plan. It's been surveyed a while ago. But basically what they're proposing, this is Stockbridge Bowl here. This is,
We can't see anything.
Don't have it yet.
nope, sorry, 1 second.
Shared screen was empty.
Try again here. Can you see that?
Nope. Oh, there it is. Yes.
Yes, okay. So 40 Lake Drive here, there's a listing dwelling here with Stockbridge Bowl here. And basically what they're proposing is there's an existing section of deck here that houses a hot tub at the moment. And that's about 120 square feet. And that's proposed to be removed and replaced with this proposed screen porch over here, which is on top of existing deck and existing stone patio. So this stone patio is proposed to be removed, and this section of deck will be removed, and this will be restored to lawn. And this proposed screen porch will be constructed. And we have 12-inch straw wattles proposed around the perimeter of work here as a limit of work and erosion controls.
Is that 72 feet
Yes,
to the
that's
corner?
72 feet from the mean annual high water mark.
All right, I'm gonna say we want a site visit right now.
Yep.
Understood.
Good way to cut to the chase.
Do we want to do that on Friday?
Sounds good to me.
That would be this Friday.
Yes.
Do you have a time?
Is Nomcag going to take a while, do we think? 45 minutes anyway.
Yeah,
You want to make it 11?
11.
And what was the address?
46 Lake Drive.
Thank you.
A big hot tub.
It is a large hot tub. Kind of an old one.
They're removing the hot tub.
Correct.
That's not easy.
All right. So Jackson,
Friday, April 16th at 11 a.m.
yep. I don't see any need for stakes or anything if it's right up alongside the house.
Yep, it's
Unless
very
you
easy.
want to give us the dimensions of for reference, maybe one stake in the outside corner or something like that, but
I think,
we'll get there and ask.
gotcha. I think Mark Volk is going to be the one meeting you because I will not be working on Friday 16th, the 16th, but he'll be able to stake anything out you need.
All righty. Thank you, Jackson.
Thank you all.
All
Have a good
right, so
night.
we have Terrell with SK Design. I'm assuming that's Haley, wherever you are.
Yes, hi.
Hello.
Hello, 78 Interlaken Road.
Mhm.
All right, talk to us.
We are just proposing the installation of a seasonal dock. It is less than 200 square feet. It's far away from the bordering property lines. It has minimal to no impacts to the resource areas, and it just seems like a pretty straightforward project. I know you did a site visit with Matthew a couple of weeks ago at this point.
I had no problems with it. It was in fact very straightforward.
Yeah.
I can pull up a plan if you guys just want to look at it again, just to refresh your memories.
Well,
Do it
Lisa is new to the commission and she hasn't seen anything, so maybe she would like to see it.
That's okay. If you all saw it. That's
Oh,
fine.
okay.
with me.
Okay.
All right,
Mhm.
so
I move we close the hearing on this project and accept the plan as presented.
Second,
I'll
Who
All right.
second?
seconded.
a second.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous. Okay, we're good on that one.
Thank you. If you wouldn't just mind sending it to the SK office. Other than
Yeah,
that,
we've taken to doing that unless there's no engineer of record, just because things keep getting lost otherwise.
no, okay, so you know the drill. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah,
guys.
we do. Thank you, Haley.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Ackerman, Mike Kulig.
Hi, gang.
Hey, Mike.
42 East Street. Hey, Mike, I haven't seen you in a while now.
It's been a while.
Vacation?
Back at it, back at it. So do you guys know anything about this place? 42 East, so they had a failed septic system. We started looking at this back in 2014 and had kind of gone through design and discussions with the health department, but the owner at the time kind of halted his efforts. So it's a failed septic system. Can I share my screen if you guys don't mind?
Sure.
Yes.
Please.
All right, coming at you.
So Mike, this system has been failed since 2014?
It has, yep.
And where has it been going since 2014?
So can you see my cursor in here? The existing septic tank is kind of right down the side of the house. It's got this wraparound driveway that sort of captures just about everything.
Lovely.
I think the use has been fairly light, so I don't think it's been kind of flowing like a river, but it's been considered in a state of failure since that time anyway.
So
Yeah.
if it just out of curiosity, if you have a failed septic system that's been identified in 2014 and you have 7 years later still not repaired it, is it considered to be a habitable residence?
The resident was still occupied. And the system wasn't so bad that the health department was too up in arms about it. So and the house was never condemned. It was still occupied. So as far as I know, it's not. Yeah, it hasn't gone kind of off the books yet. And they'd have 2 years to fix it, but for whatever reason, it just didn't happen. And they recently sold the property back in last October to some new folks who were kind of made aware of the fact that they needed to handle this. So
So they would have failed a Title V.
it did. It did. It failed a Title V, and they were aware of it back last October, and they started this process over the winter, and we knew we had to get to the commission, so we said, oh, let's get through permits and plan on building this in the spring.
Where, I'm sorry to be kind of ignorant here, but where actually is this property?
So actually, this is Keith and Marie Raftery is just to the south.
Johnny, it's right beside our house. It's
Oh,
Kikera.
okay, it's the Brown farmhouse.
Yeah, so we did
Oh, yeah.
perks again back in 2014, a set of perks, and came up with a pretty straightforward design. I mean, the location is kind of hemmed in by, there's a intermittent stream to the north. And to the south, there's a water supply well that kind of pins this thing into this general area. It's going to be a bit of a mound, so we tried to keep it at least to the side of the house so it didn't block the sun from the front door of the house. But it's a straightforward design, nothing out of the ordinary.
It's going in front of the house.
It's going on kind of on the side. So Route 7's up here. System is just along this side.
Yeah, I
Well,
got
I think wherever it goes, as long as it's not failed, that would be good.
Yeah, we couldn't go any further south. We were right up against the well setback. We were pegged in there pretty good to what we could do.
Where's the old system, or where was the old system?
Yeah, it was just off this tank. Ron, just off the tank, kind of in this area, the new tank. So we probably will end up having to peel out some of the residue of what's left. And that'll get taken out and replaced with clean material.
This has been approved by Tri-Town?
Yeah, it has, and it's been approved. The contractor's got to get his approval, got to get his license to install it, but the plan has been approved.
And are they going by the new perk test or the old perk test, 7-year-old one?
Yeah, that's all we had was the old perk test and they were witnessed by Tri-Town at the time, back in 2014. That was this. Yeah, they were witnessed by somebody at Tri-Town. Susan Malone, I think, was there at the time. And Nick from our office did the perks back when they happened. But the perks are good, generally good forever. If you ask the Board of Health, the perks are good forever or until the code changes.
Or the water rises.
Or the water changes, yeah. Well, the water table was high here. That's why this is going to be a pretty significant mound to get up away from the water table.
All right, site visit. We already got Friday at 10, Friday at 11. How long is that 11 o'clock one gonna take?
$11:30.
But you have to drive from,
Lake Drive,
11:45.
11:45.
11:45. All right.
11:45 at
42
42 East Street.
Yep. See you then.
Hopefully.
All right, folks.
Gonna be staked out by then?
Yeah, we can get some stakes in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
46 Lake Drive. Now this one for removal of invasive plants, species and ash trees. Does anybody know where this is?
Yeah, that's the one that we looked at the other day, Terrell, remember with Greg Wellenkamp? Greg is on and so
Hi,
is
Greg.
Mike Parsons.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm with you.
No, I'm not.
It's the same one we just looked at for the dock.
Okay.
with the young gal that was on.
Yes.
Well,
What were we looking for? We were looking for,
Remember, we were a little concerned about the amount of clearing and how it would impact in terms of erosion, even though it was really outside of the jurisdiction for the most part.
Right.
We thought
steep
that there might be we thought there might be the possibility for erosion just because it was really steep, and we were a little confused by what was being taken out and why.
So, and what's the resource area?
The lake.
Stockbridge Bowl.
Okay,
It's a huge property.
yeah,
And a lot of it has already been cleared. There's some old fruit trees, mostly apple, as far as I could tell, some of which have been neglected probably for 100 years. There's ash, there's a lot of ash, which was not in good shape.
so how were they removing things?
Cutting.
Greg, you with us here?
Mike is.
I am.
I'm here as well.
All right, we were looking for some sort of plan, itinerary, erosion control, locations.
how we're gonna remove the invasive species?
Yeah, we didn't have much in the way of mapping, written statements, anything in writing pretty much, and we would really appreciate to have a plan.
We've got a plan that we filed back in February. And I don't have it available to screen share, but I'm sure you all have it. And we showed the lake, we showed a straw wattle barrier around it to protect the lake. Setback, that straw wattle barrier was set back 35 feet from the lake to limit the work, as well as to protect the lake from any sedimentation. And in our narrative, the RDA, we said the project involves removing honeysuckle and all of the ash trees while leaving all the others.
So removing or cutting? Mike, removing or cutting?
Well, removing.
So the soil
You
disturbance,
gotta cut them to remove them.
but so once you cut them, you'll be digging them up?
Well, that was something that I posed that question to Greg and to Jody Wilkinson, whether they were going to leave the stumps or not. And I guess the plan was to remove the stumps. But if that's a problem, then from what I understand from a conversation with Junior, they would just cut the ash flush and leave the stumps.
And how, I'm sorry, I didn't see the plan. How far is it from the bowl?
Well, we're within 200 feet because that's what the Conservation Commission jurisdiction is, Lisa, in Stockbridge.
Yep.
So they have a jurisdiction within 200 feet. Most of the work is taking place more than 100, in between 100 and 200 feet from the lake. None of the work is taking place within 35 feet of the lake, with the exception of the removal of, I think, 5 or 6 trees. And they're dead, they're shown on the plan. But the brush and all of everything else is stay. The only thing that's going in that area is the trees.
Was there gonna be any replanting?
I wasn't told of anything, any replanting that was gonna take place. So I
From USA.
only on the plan.
So what would prevent invasives from just coming back in?
I'm not sure that anything other than somebody being a good steward of the property would prevent them from coming back in.
So
But
is there a monitoring plan once things are taken out? Because otherwise, it's just gonna come right back in.
Thank you, Lisa.
I'm gonna assume that the property's caretaker, once he has this stuff removed, will be paying attention to what's going on down there and keeping it mowed.
Yeah, I would like to see that written out in a plan. Like, I'm used to a 5-year monitoring plan for invasives. I'm not sure what you do in Stockbridge, but I'd like to see a monitoring plan. Otherwise, you're just taking things out and there's no guarantee that they're not gonna come right back in.
Yeah, if you mow one time and walk away, that's, well, I don't even know if it's gonna be a mow. If I recall the location, there's rocks and slope and stuff, and you probably can't mow it, so.
I certainly wouldn't think you could mow this. At least not down closer to the lake.
The last 200 feet is tough.
We had a question about whether this might fall under the stormwater bylaw. Of how much, what's the square footage of the work that's being done, Mike?
Well, it's probably 165 by about 200.
Yeah, so it's over 10,000. It
Yeah.
does apply.
Is that a Stockbridge bylaw?
Yeah, it's the Stockbridge Stockbridge stormwater bylaw. And it was put into effect in order to address a piece of property very similar to this one, which is where we think that there might be a possibility of work being done outside of the wetlands jurisdiction that might affect a resource area.
Ron, can I say something?
Yes.
It's the bylaw that was moved from the planning board over to the Conservation Commission with the hopes that it would actually be used as to its full intent.
Well, I was one of the people that worked on drafting it, so I'm pretty familiar with it and why we did it. And this piece of property, we walked with Greg the other day. And Ron and I both had concerns about what was going to happen if things were cut and removed and all of that, and whether it would ultimately wash down to the lake. And so I felt as though there needed to be a more comprehensive replanting plan on this.
I agree.
Well, we did say that it was going to be reseeded.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure grass is going to do it, Mike. The closer you get to the lake, the more it is, the steeper it is.
Right. Okay.
I dropped the NOI into the chat too.
I'm sorry, Patrick.
I dropped the NOI from February into the chat if anybody wants to see it.
No, it's not an NOI, it's an RDA.
Does the stormwater bylaw make it NOI? I'm not familiar with the bylaw.
No, it's sort of separate. But if
Just
you're
with-
over 10, if the work that you're doing is more than 10,000 square feet, it then becomes something that we look at under the stormwater bylaw. And the reason the bylaw was written was so that if you had a big piece of property that was being disturbed and there was some sort of resource area that could be affected by it, but it would not fall under any of the wetlands regulations, we could still look at it and we could still condition it so that the resource area was not going to be impacted by stormwater.
Mhm. Good.
Lisa, I just dropped it in the chat. It's in the general bylaws, page 42.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Joe, you had something? No?
No, what do you?
Okay, you lit up.
The other thing that I thought we looked at, Ron, when we were looking at that is whether they needed to put in some sort of erosion control matting.
Yeah, we talked about that. There is a pretty good slope there. Once you get below the apple trees, or part of the apple trees even, the drop off's pretty significant. And if you start running machinery around in there, you're just gonna tear it all up. I don't care if you
Yep.
just cut the stumps and leave them, but there's gonna
Anyway.
be some major runoff.
Mhm.
Do we feel as though we need a notice of intent on this?
I do. And a more detailed plan.
Yeah, I'll second that.
I'd like to see exactly what's coming out and some replanting that will hold everything in place. And erosion controls. And a monitoring, at least a 3-year monitoring plan.
Agreed.
for, You know, what's happening after all this stuff is taken out.
All right. Let's have a notice of intent filed. We're gonna ask more questions. You're gonna have more answers for us.
So the notice of intent will be, we'll require it as a result, as when we issue our determination, we will request a notice of intent be filed. And also, the applicant needs to take into account the stormwater bylaw.
That should cover most of our questioning. It's just a difficult property to envision right now how that's all going to be cleared and not end up parts of it going down the hill towards the lake. So I think we need more answers and more. And now, definitely need more decision making to let us know how you're going to keep everything where it is. Just to cut brush and leave it lay on the ground, that's not going to cut it.
Oh, that was never the intent, Ron, to cut the brush and leave it on the ground. It says right in the RDA, we're going to remove the honeysuckle and all of the ash trees. And the brush was going to be burned and the rest of the stuff was to be hauled off the site.
Once you get within that 200 feet.
Well, that's where the work's taking place.
Yeah.
Filed.
I'm trying to picture what's going to be left there. And considering there's a lot of ash trees and just about all of them are dying off now.
Well, we're not opposed to putting down erosion controls.
Yeah,
I mean, we've got, I'm sorry, we've already got straw wattles wrapping, running the whole length of the lake and up the sides that are shown on the plan. And
We don't have the plan.
I don't think that anybody's opposed to putting an erosion control mat down after they're done with this. And they can cut all the ash stumps flush and put the erosion control mat right over the that was discussed, and then also to seed it.
But to seed it with grass, I'd like to see it seeded with something that's really gonna hold it in place, but not seeded, planted. Is there intent to have it be grass?
No, their intent's to have it be, the rest of the trees other than the ash are gonna be left.
Yeah. See, I haven't seen it, so I can't really picture how much honeysuckle's there, how much ash.
quite a bit of
I would like-
honeysuckle,
I'm
quite a
sorry,
bit of honeysuckle and not too many trees that aren't ash.
yeah.
Are they gonna pull up the honeysuckle? Let's cut to the chase here.
Mike, how are you gonna remove the honeysuckle?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up,
You
With
are
a-
pulling it up.
With an excavator,
right, with a mini excavator.
right? That's soil disturbance,
Mhm.
which,
Mhm.
I'm with Lisa, I'd like to see this plan. And I'd like to see, I don't even think wattles would do it. I think you need silt fences in that particular scenario.
Okay,
Well, they are talking about putting mats down because if you don't have something to hold it right in place, it's gonna end up all piled up against the straw wattles or the silt fences. And I personally would like to see some shrubbery planted or bushes or native plantings or trees.
Me too. Me too.
If we're gonna require that, I mean, we really need to have a more comprehensive plan. And we need to have things specified.
Yep.
And I think the best way to achieve that is to request a notice of intent. And also make sure that when they do apply for the notice of intent, that they're looking at the stormwater bylaw at the same time. And you can apply at the same time with both. There's no charge for the stormwater bylaw. But it goes, hand in glove with the notice of intent.
Agree.
All right.
So do we want to do that, or are we okay with the way it is?
I would like to do,
I'm not okay with the way it is.
I'd like to see a notice of intent.
I would also, and a plan.
All right, so do we want to close the hearing on the request for determination and have a positive determination that we need to have a notice of intent?
Absolutely.
Sally, this is Greg. I have one question. If we propose just cleaning up the area between 200 feet and 100 feet, can we do that with an RDA?
Well,
Well, a lot of the work's already been done. So you're sort of already in the 10,000 foot disturbance part.
Okay. So my general input is always, since I deal with honeysuckle all the time, it's no barrier to erosion. That's my concern with leaving honeysuckle around Stockbridge Bowl. If you look under the honeysuckle, it's dirt. There's nothing, it doesn't act as erosion control. So I advocate always getting rid of honeysuckle because I think long-term, we end up with too much silt in the lake by leaving the honeysuckle around the lake.
Greg, I can agree with you, but if you're pulling it up, the roots aren't even there to hold anything in place anymore. So
right.
Either you have to cover it with mats, which probably will have to be done. You have to do some sort of blanket seeding, the the spray or a hay mulch seeding to try to hold it, but I think you're gonna need some shrubbery or something there just to hold it.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree.
All right.
So we need a motion to close the hearing and request or have a positive determination requesting a notice of intent.
I'll do that, Sally. I'll make the motion to close the hearing and have a positive.
Do I
Yeah,
have
I'll second that if nobody else will.
Okay, and so we should do a roll call.
In favor of? Aye.
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 Any opposed?
No.
Okay, Mike, we're gonna have to get an NOI for this.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good night.
Okay, hang on. I lost stuff.
Hey, Greg?
He's gone.
No, he's there.
I'm here.
Hey, Greg, I have a quick question for you. Does your dredging plan envision dredging the holding pond across the causeway?
It does not.
Because
I'd like to.
Richard is advocating for that every time he talks. In fact, he just did it to 40 people in our MVP climate process in a sort of blanket email. You might touch base with Richard and just sort of see what his ideas on that are, because he feels very strongly that needs to be dredged. I'm not saying we should do it, but I just feel like, you know, that if we're talking about what the areas of dredging are, that the SBA's input, which seems to be mostly concerned with quoting what he's calling maintenance of the holding pond, you know, it should take into account the SBA's desires, or at least have a conversation around it. I don't want the town to get stuck between sort of looking bad and you know, not having a plan if he wants a plan.
No, I've heard directly from Richard numerous times.
Okay.
But GZA's input is it's very difficult permitting that
Well,
because part of
Can
it's
we point that
wetlands
out
now.
to Richard then? Because I don't understand why, you know, he has mentioned it about 10 times in the last 2 months.
Yeah.
All right, up next we have 6 Brookside Lane. That's a screen porch and landing. That wasn't a good site either.
I thought we had already,
Yeah, I thought we did too.
I thought we
here.
dismissed that one.
Jim Hartwood is here.
Yeah,
Because
so
remember, he had the 20-year-old plans and it was too wet, and I thought we said no.
that was a different scope. You said that you wouldn't allow an extension of the screen porch, but at the time we discussed that enclosing the existing screen porch and putting a couple steps by a proposed dining room door was something that you were willing to consider, and we've revised the scope to reflect that. So there's no increase in the building footprint. The screen porch that exists is going to get the porch that exists is going to get screens added, and they'd like to change a pair of windows into a door off their dining room, and that's going to require a landing and a step.
What size landing we talking?
Well, you want me to share my screen?
Yes, please.
Good.
So you can see my cursor. This is the outline of the house, and that's not changing. There's a section of the porch that the steps will be putting a roof over that. We'll be putting screens throughout. These steps are on a stone foundation. It's a stone set of steps, stone and concrete. Over here, So actually those steps led right down to the wetlands, and they'd prefer to go into their side yard and stay away from the wetlands. So in order to do that, we need to add steps there. And this is also their dining room where they want to add the door. And so the step would continue one step straight across and go down. So then the step itself is, it's 4 feet by 24 feet. There'd be no foundation work. There'd be 4 helical piles. So there's no excavation. And that is the total of the work that we're asking about.
Jim, what's happening to what you have there is the proposed covered porch over existing,
So
what's that
yeah.
little thing that's sticking out? What's that?
So that's an existing masonry stair.
Okay,
They'd prefer to make part of, so it's an existing portion of the footprint. They'd prefer to make it part of their porch than have it as a steps.
okay. So they're just basically covering that.
Yes, right. No,
Okay.
and again, no foundation work there.
The steps go away?
The steps will probably go away to some degree, but the foundation is going to be continued to be used.
Explain how they go away to some degree.
So it steps down. We'll probably take the stone veneer off it and leave the concrete in place.
But you can step from that porch to the ground?
No, at that point, there'll be there's no route to the ground from there. That's what
All right, okay.
The vegetated wetland is kind of covered by my text here, but the idea is to keep people from walking directly out towards the wetland and let them walk directly out to the side yard, which is, I think, better for the occupants of the house and better for the wetland.
What's the distance from the proposed work area to the wetland?
Hold on one second. Just got to get into my drafting software.
This is a particularly thorny property, Lisa.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The distance is approximately, it's like 50-ish feet. If you go, or it's about 18 feet. Okay, so let me go back to the screen that you're looking at, sorry. So left to right here, it's about 50 feet, and north to south here, it's about 18 feet.
18, yeah. And you can see how close it is on the upper right-hand side.
Yeah, but we're not doing any work over here.
No, I understand that. I know, but Lisa hasn't seen this property, so I'm just trying to give her a sense of how concerned we are about this property.
Thank you. And so the square footage of the proposed work in the buffer is what?
About 100, it's a little bit less than 100 square feet. It's about 95 square feet. 96.
And what's growing, is it grass?
It's grass, yeah. And this is all, I think, I forget who it was on the board, mentioned that it seemed to have all been built at one point on some sort of fill.
Yeah, that was me.
I think you're probably right. I don't have any real way to know, but it certainly looks like that.
Oh, I remember this. This was back when Shep Evans was our commander-in-chief, right, Sally?
Yep.
Yeah, this was this past fall.
No, I know that. I'm just remembering how it got sold and what the basement looked before they put the cap on the foundation.
Oh yeah, that I have no idea about that.
It probably looks the same with the cap on the foundation and the house on the foundation too.
Well, the basement's quite dry, actually. I spent a fair bit of time down there because they're having there's a beam that's failing, but it's not due to moisture, and the basement's quite dry.
Well, that's because there was so much fill put in there.
I guess, but it's not really part of this.
No, we understand that, but it's important that people understand the whole history. So Lisa, to the right of the bill, as you look at this plan, to the right is a river.
Okay. Wow. Wow.
It's a river plus wetland. I mean,
And
it,
then there's wetland plants everywhere. I mean, if
Good.
everywhere there's the little squiggly lines, all of that is wetland outside. And if it
It's-
hadn't been filled the way it was, the whole thing would be wetland.
it's a
Wow.
swamp.
And it's another one of those that was supposed to be replication. It
Yeah.
wasn't. So now it's just junk. It's
So
annoying.
they're losing 100 more feet of buffer.
So
It's not gonna, frankly, it's not gonna make any difference at this point
So it's such a mess.
because it's so bad.
So this is 44 feet wide by 20 some feet long.
24 by 24. And actually the first foot of the width is under the eaves of the roof. So it's really only an extension of the footprint in that area by 3 feet.
And the eaves are not going to be extended?
So there's a little kick. Let me see if I can show you this. I'm not sure what you see. Do you see an elevation now? Or you still see the plan?
No.
No, we still see the original plan.
Hold on a second. Hold on. So this is an elevation, and these are, you're seeing an elevation now, correct?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
This is the landing with a step, and there's a little flare over the doorway, but as you can see, it doesn't go any further out than the eaves of the house already go out. So there's no increase for that, but we just wanted to wash, kick the water off over the door head so that we wouldn't have problems with infiltration.
Now, at some point in time, I can see this little kick being extended out 4 feet.
I guess, I don't know why. You know, I mean, I think this applicant has been pretty upfront about wanting to abide by the rules. They came to you with what they wanted. You said you wanted adjustments. They made those adjustments.
I'm okay with the adjustments because that would be the building inspector and planning, and the roof extension is beyond us if it did happen. We'd rather not see it happen, but
Here, buddy.
My question is, we're gonna have a 4 by 20-foot porch out there with no roof over it?
Well, so let me go back. I got to reshare with you. Sorry, I got to stop.
That's what he seems to be telling us, John.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's what I got.
Yeah, so there's a reason for that.
Aha.
You guys are seeing the plan again?
Yes.
Okay.
It's an enclosed deck.
Yeah. So I could make a step here for these doors and a step here for these doors, and then there'd be about 3 or 4 feet between them. But I actually think, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And I think I'm, you know, I don't need any less piers. So, I mean, yes, I could separate a little 3-foot section here. But that's
It
why,
makes sense. It makes sense from our point of view, and that once you have, and I understand that it's being called stairs, and I understand that that's how it's going to function, but it becomes a by right that the house could be extended out there if somebody could make the case that it's a deck.
but it's a landing and the doors swing over it, so.
Just saying.
Isn't this how things creep out and get bigger?
Yes, it is. That's how they creep out and get bigger. So
Sally, I have
having,
a
so
quick
having the
question.
space in the middle would probably eliminate that as a possibility.
I'll approve this if that space is in this plan.
Ron, before you go ahead, could I just have one quick question?
Sure.
The proposed covered porch over the existing stair,
Yes.
how far is that out in this plan that we're looking at?
Well, it doesn't extend the footprint at all. If you'd like to know.
No,
the-
but how far is it out from the, say, the 2 side walls?
Yeah, so hold on one second. I'll give you that number.
That's the creeping part.
And then if you could flip back to that other plan you showed us
Just hold on a second.
before.
But to answer your question, the piers come out about 30 inches. So that's about how far we would go.
Could we go
Not
back
sure
to
which
that other plan,
you're asking
please?
to see. I'm not sure which other plan. I'm happy to show you
The one you just had up before this.
the elevations.
Yep.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, I talked to him about that.
Just because the piers go out 30 inches doesn't mean the roof line only goes out 30 inches.
Well, it looks like it, yeah, it looks like they go out a little more in this plan.
I'm trying to figure out where it is.
So you guys see the elevation now?
Parts of it.
Yeah.
Ron, if you look at the plan, the floor plan,
Yeah.
see how far they extend? Is that the same dimension?
Not sure what you're asking me. The eave overhang on the porch is less than the eave overhang on the roof. The eave overhang on the porch is like.
Can we go down to the plan though that's below that? Yeah, right there.
Uh-huh.
And it looks like that former set of stairs has been pushed out, or is it, am I?
No, this is not a good indication of how far anything sticks out, because it's a inch and a half
Okay.
scale plan that's been cut, and it's just, I wouldn't measure off this at all.
Okay, great.
Sorry. Hold on. But you can see it in this elevation that the overhang is slight in the neighborhood of inches, whereas the overhang on the roof is 12 to
Okay,
18
yeah, sure, that's not a problem.
inches. I mean, you can see the difference right here, because it just sticks a little bit and it sticks a lot. So,
All right. As we're looking at this picture right now, the front overhang porch that's to be enclosed. Right in the center of this drawing. How far will that be to the end of the floorboards?
I'm not sure I can give you that exact number.
Or roof line then, or
Yeah,
whatever.
if the stairs are 30 inches, this is not going to be greater than 36 inches with the eave line.
Okay, that's what I want to know. I'll give you the 36 inches. But on the side, and I'll give you the two openings, at least in my opinion anyways.
Well, it's one opening, but yeah.
There's only
Well, so
only
when you put the
one set
screens
of
on the
doors?
porch, when we put the screens on the porch, a portion of them are going to be doors. But then we're
All right,
cutting an
all
opening on
right.
the side of the house to make windows into a door, one place.
Okay. Now if we go to the, well, it'll be right on this drawing then.
Yeah, it's right here. Yep.
Pardon me.
COVID.
No, I've been vaccinated.
And so
Doesn't
here, I mean, this
get it,
might
but-
be helpful to you. This is the elevation of the area in question.
Wait a minute, what side are we looking at?
This is the dining, this is the steps in the landing.
Okay.
As
This-
it exists or as proposed?
No, as proposed.
Okay.
This shows a new roof that isn't there at the moment. As a matter of-
As I mentioned, we're going to flare the wall out in order to keep the rain off the doors. And as I mentioned before, that overhang does not stick out past the existing overhang.
So it won't go to the 40 inches or the 4 feet of the deck.
Correct. That's what we discussed before. And the deck itself is, is not a solid, it's open, so water will work its way through it.
Yeah, all right, good. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. I will definitely keep that in mind.
And that's actually quite a difference between, I think that's a significant difference between what we're proposing and the steps that we're covering up. The steps that we're covering up are masonry and impermeable, and the landing we're putting here is pervious. Water will work through it and go below it. There'll be no foundation.
But the concern is yes, I mean, that's a good thing. But the concern is ultimately that this becomes part of the square foot
Mhm.
and the footprint of the house. And therefore the house can be expanded that 4 feet.
Well, I mean, I don't know any portion of the building code or the zoning code that would count this as square footage of the house. And it's not the area under the roof, and it's not impermeable.
At
And
the moment,
that's correct. And anything that would
in
change.
this drawing, it's not either.
And anything that would change here would have to come before you guys because you have jurisdiction over it. So, and if it didn't, then you would have recourse to have it removed. So I don't understand why fear of something, why someone who's coming and playing by the rules, a fear of them not playing by the rules would somehow impact
Well,
judgment.
It's still loss of buffer from my perspective. Is there any place on how big is the site?
Not big.
I don't know the full acreage of the site, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of the wetlands is part of the property is what I can't answer. The footprint of the house feels like, half-acre site. But
We've been burned too many times.
We've also had additions to the deeds where these areas will remain porches and not be added to the square footage of the house.
I'm pretty
You
sure
do
my
that-
client would be happy to do that. I have to ask them, but I don't think they would object.
Can you do that with an RDA? I just don't know.
No,
It would have to be a notice of intent.
I would think so.
Yeah, I would think so too.
Moving right along.
Yeah. If they agreed to add to their deed that this will remain decking, I will permit it. I'll go along with permitting it. I don't have, it's just such a terrible whole situation with where the house was built. And then it's not the present owner's problem that it was built where it is. So, because they inherited this mess. And am I completely correct in understanding that there will be 2 accesses out on that side of the building now? There'll be a dining room exit entrance and a kitchen exit entrance?
No.
No?
You're almost correct. Let me just bring the plan back up. So there will be, hold on, you're looking at it, but I'm not. This is the dining room.
Yeah, and there's an entrance exit to be
Windows,
proposed there.
They're taking out the 2 windows, put a door in, and they want to come out. This is the porch. And they're closing up this access from the porch and replacing it with this access from the porch.
Oh, okay.
So there would be 1 new access from the interior of the house.
And one moved.
Yeah, but I think it's moved further away from the resource, and more importantly, it directs people out to the area that is more a cohesive lawn and keeps them from the perimeter where they're just a few feet away from whatever's living in the wetland.
All right, I have a complete understanding of what's going on here. Any other questions? Any comments?
No.
Any motions?
Are we gonna continue pending finding out whether the homeowner would agree to put some sort of deed restriction that this addition of the 4 feet is not going to become part of the footprint?
I think that's a good idea.
I would certainly like it. And a matter of fact, it's pretty much conditional on us approving this.
Because a lot of times when people get a screen in their porches, it becomes a new part of the building, like a new bedroom or a study.
Yeah, becomes an addition to the house, and then all of a sudden they need a new set of steps
Right. Yes.
and a new stairway and an overhang and I think we could be generous and approve this plan if they want to stipulate that this doesn't become interior space.
Talking about the screen porch, right?
I'm
No, we're talking
about
about the stairs.
the whole thing,
Everything, yeah.
whole thing. As you're presenting it right now.
We can't do anything about the existing covered porch. That's a done deal.
Yeah.
They can do anything they want to inside the perimeter of that area because it is currently part of the footprint. What we can ask is to have the 4-foot by 24-foot stair landing thing not become part of the official footprint.
Okay.
Because already we've lost this, what was a porch to being part of the building, and that's what we're trying to avoid in the new stair. Did everybody die out there?
I don't know.
I know, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Great.
So we're willing to approve this plan if you're willing to talk to the homeowner.
Yeah, but, no, that's not a problem. So you're asking me to resubmit it at the next meeting with that notation on it? That's unclear to me.
I think that's what we have to do.
Even an email with some sort of signed document saying that they agree that this 24 by 4-foot stair landing thing, however you want to describe it, will not become part of the official footprint and therefore will not be able to be converted into living space.
I don't know that an email would do it. I would want.
Well,
some-
it's with a
That's
signed
the deed.
document. I mean, a description of the project, but they would have to have a signed document to go along with it.
That would be attached to the deed, though.
Right.
And then we could sign off on that, on this whole thing at the next meeting.
So you're gonna want to continue this, or do I need to?
Yes,
Yeah, okay. And the next meeting is 2 weeks or 4 weeks?
2 weeks. So it's the 27th,
Okay. See you guys.
right? No, wait. 14 and 20, yeah, 27th.
Okay. So we'll see. you
All
on the
right.
27th.
You're almost there.
Thank you. I'm going to leave the meeting. Thank you very much.
Have a
Thank
good evening.
Night.
Houstonic Railroad, is anybody here from them?
Probably not.
No.
Tom Lewis, are you here for them?
Hello, I'm here.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yes, so,
Talk to us.
I'm here on behalf of the Houstonic Railroad. You may recall we did this 5 years ago. So railroads, when they do vegetation management in Massachusetts, they have to have a vegetation management plan under the rights of way regulations. As part of that, they also have to go to every municipality and get a determination of the boundary delineations of the resource areas of water supply and wetland resources. So that's why I'm here tonight. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to look at the map. If you want, I can share my screen with you so you can see it up there.
It's your opportunity on a regular basis to have us tell you that we don't want you to use herbicides.
Understood.
Just saying.
Understood.
We'll get that over with early on.
I fully expected it.
Can I get something else over with before we start.
Sure.
And that is, one of our members who's taken the ride down the railroad tracks is not here. It used to be me, and I guess it's back in my lap again. I understand what goes on there. I understand your markings and I understand all that stuff. So if you want to go through the whole dog and pony show, go through it. But if you want to pick me up in Housatonic and take me up to South Lee, I'd be happy to ride along with whoever wants to take me down
Yeah,
the
that's
road.
fine. I mean, I expected we'd probably do a field visit, whoever it was going to be with. So that's entirely up to you. So I'll just have to coordinate that with the railroad. I can set it up with them and we'll plan to take a ride one day.
Right.
Okay.
We kind of know what you're up to and why you're here and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
I mean, wetlands delineation along the railroad tracks, I've seen it year after year prior to the last time when Jay Ryan went down. I'm more than happy to go and do it again.
Okay. I did go out there on April 2nd. I didn't note any changes, but certainly we'll do it again and you can see it for yourself.
My concern is the markings on the ties so that the engineer driving the spray vehicle knows when to turn things on and off.
Sure.
In the past, there have been, missing markers, or they've been painted over, or the ties have been replaced and the markers weren't put back down again. So I would encourage you to have somebody take a ride between Housatonic and South Lee and make sure the markers are in place, and then to let us know when you want to take a ride.
Right. Yeah, actually, I did that on the 2nd. So I've already done that because I knew you were going to ask.
No, it's ask and thou shalt receive. So tell us when you want to make a date, and we don't need to go through a whole dog and pony show.
Is there a day that's better for you than another, or?
I don't do Mondays and I don't do Fridays and I don't do early mornings, or I don't do early mornings, period.
Okay. All right.
My day starts at about 10 o'clock.
I think you should give him lunch. That's less than $50.
Okay.
All right, so
between Housatonic and Lee, but we'll see what we can find.
All right.
why don't you throw up the map on the screen here for us quick, like we'll take a quick look at it and then let you do your thing.
Let's see if anything's changed.
Okay. Can you make that out there?
No,
I got it, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Got it.
I didn't note any changes from our last trip out there, John, but of course we'll go through it and take a walk and see what you want to see.
One of my concerns, only because I have been approached by residents in town, and you should be aware of this, and being a right-of-way, there's probably not a whole hell of a lot anybody can do, but there are some people that are a little bit upset that there are piles of old ties on the side of the tracks that don't appear to be going anywhere and haven't gone anywhere since the last time I was down there. And can somebody give me some idea what your plans there are? Or are they just sort of going to rot into the ground with all their creosote and other stuff?
Yeah, I can talk to the railroad about it. If you have specific locations, we should identify those.
We'll do that on the road.
We've talked about this a couple of times.
Yeah.
And you're not the only town that deals with it. I'm not saying that's right.
Right.
Yeah, no, I know.
It's not the only railroad either, because that's historically, that's the way they disposed of ties, was they let them rot in the woods. Not, again, it's not saying it's right. But if there are piles, usually when they pile them up, that means they intended to move them out of there.
Yeah, right.
So we should probably identify those as we go down, and we'll have to talk to the railroad and just tell them we'll have to keep pressure on them. That's all we can do.
Yeah, Tom, there's one concern I do have every year when we do this, and it doesn't really have anything to do with the Concom. And that is that there is a stretch before you get to Route 7, between Cherry Street and Route 7.
Or the old station, the long wet area.
Right, where you can see from Route 7 all the way down to Cherry Street. Yeah, and it's a no spray zone. And it seems to be a no maintenance zone. And it seems as though things are pretty sketchy in there. And the only reason, which is one of our charges here, is that if your guys aren't going to maintain it to some sort of acceptable level, and that car topples over that's got whatever in it into that swamp, then we're going to be pretty pissed off.
Well, certainly I understand your concern, but I can tell you that they do at least weekly, if not bi-weekly, track inspections out there. And I know the FRA goes out there also on a regular basis. So
well, you have to understand that I ran a restaurant in the Stockbridge station back a ways, 1984-ish. And I used to watch the trains go by, and I'd look down at the rails and the ties, and the whole damn thing would be going back and forth. And, I don't know what the Federal Railroad Association or whatever they're called was doing with that one, but I was waiting for a car to topple over on top of some of the people that were eating on my platform.
Sure. Well, I do know that they've got a project in the works, and they're replacing all the rail through that stretch all the way down.
Right.
Most of the rails laying alongside.
Yeah, they've got a whole bunch of welded rail, and they've got a whole bunch of ties planned and switch replacements. So they do have a lot of work programmed there. I know that.
Are we within our rights to ask to have some sort of clue as to how that all is going to happen, or is that part of the world of right away?
When you say how it's going to happen, what do you mean?
Well, I being that I had the station down there for 3 years, I became kind of tuned into the railroad world, and I've seen the 100-foot rails, or are they 50? What are they?
Oh, those
the long ones that you're going to weld.
They're running they're 1,500 feet, but once they get them welded, they're going to be continuous.
Right, I understand that.
Yeah, they're typically 1,500 or 1,600 feet, but it can vary.
It comes under right of way, John, and it's also maintenance. So it's sort of a double whammy of what we can't really touch.
I can tell you too, it's a MassDOT funded project because they own the passenger rights, and all of us that pay taxes in the Commonwealth are shareholders.
Right. No, I understand that. I was just wondering if there was any good neighbor kind of thing that would clue us into what they were doing.
Boy, I'll tell you, just because you live there, you probably know more than me. I only know because I was out there a week and a half ago. All I know is that they're changing the rail, and they're going to be changing ties and just generally improving the track.
And they're going to be going a little bit quicker, which is good if you're trying to get to Danbury, Connecticut, if they ever figure that out.
Yeah.
I see a hand up for Kate Fletcher. Did you have something you wanted to say, Kate, or was that just?
I had a question, Sally.
Okay.
So do you work for Mass Rail, or do you work for Housatonic Railway?
Housatonic Railroad is my client. I actually work for a consulting company. We're just here to permit their herbicide application.
Who's the consulting company that you work for?
Tech Associates.
I'm sorry?
Tech, TEC.
I see. So when Housatonic Railroad has cars that are filled with, as John says, God knows what, do you provide the town of Stockbridge with a manifest or with information on what's in those cars?
Well, I don't, because I don't get involved in any of their operations at all. I just permit their vegetation management.
Okay.
Any of that rail traffic, that's all governed under interstate commerce.
That's right.
It's the same as a truck driving down the highway going from Pittsfield to New York State.
So you're just overseeing the spraying. Do are people who live along the tracks, are they notified that when the spraying is happening?
Well, there is a public notification process that goes along with that. So you should have already received the yearly operational plan at the Conservation Commission.
We did.
As well as Board of Health and Board of Selectmen. Plus it gets advertised on the Environmental Monitor, and there's a 45-day public comment period, so it is
Okay, all
public.
right, thank you. Thanks very much.
Sure.
You know, to expand on Kate's thing, it just occurred to me that over the years that this has been going on, one question I've never asked is what kind of herbicide are you going to be using in the spray zones?
Well, it varies from year to year, and all that is spelled out in the YOP. So depending upon if it's a pre-emergent application or a post-emergent application, there's different products because some of them must be applied to a growing plant, and that would be a post-emergent. Other ones are more effective at controlling seeds. So if you're going to do a pre-emergent, you might do it a little bit earlier. But that's all detailed in the yearly operational plan. So the specific products that are to be used, the concentrations, where they're going to be used, that's all in the plan. One thing I will tell you is that the only thing they're allowed to use in either buffer zones or in restricted water supply areas are what's called sensitive area materials. So the Commonwealth has a website where it's posted all the different products that they can use in those areas. And those are the only things that they can use.
So if you're asking if they use glyphosate, John, yes, they do.
No, I know, I know that.
Glyphosate is considered a sensitive area material.
And safe, God knows.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, for the map that we're looking at, the green is spray areas, the yellow are sensitive areas that may or may not get sprayed on one side or the other.
Nope. So what we have is, for example, I'm going to run my cursor down. I'll start in the lower left side.
Yeah.
So if you have an area where this track is that has no coloration over it, that would be considered uplands. It's outside of the buffer zone. It's not within, say, a zone 2 or a zone A of water supply. When you get into this light blue area, that's all within buffer zone. So there's restrictions on that to one application per year. The reality is the railroad only makes one application a year, so
it's meaningless.
yeah, so it's kind of a moot point. But still, it's restricted to one application a year with sensitive area materials.
Within 10 feet of the river, by the way.
You can apply in a buffer zone no closer than 10 feet to either a BBW, certified vernal pool, but no closer than 10 feet to the resource.
Because it's not going to wash in the next time it rains, right?
Stop.
I just have to say this every time. I'm sorry. I know I'm a broken record, but it irritates the daylights out of me.
Nothing you can do.
I'm with you, Sally.
To continue, the yellow is no spray. So they're not allowed to spray at all in any yellow areas. So that would either be a river crossing, a stream crossing, a culvert that's flowing. So those are always no spray.
Or bridge across the swamp, which is what I'm concerned about because the last time I was there, it looked like it was going to rot to death.
Not sure which one you mean, but you mean that
it's right in the dead center of the page here.
They're the number 68, 69.
Well, it's between 69 and 70. It's the yellow place. It says spray west side and center only.
Yeah, there is, I believe there is a bridge in there. I've never inspected the bridge, so I can't say.
You ought to get there. It's really interesting.
What about private wells? Is there any consideration
Sure.
for that?
Yep, there is. For example, over here on the left side of the page, there are 2 private wells. These darker blue areas, anything on a private well, you cannot spray anything closer than 50 feet to a private well. Between 50 feet and 100 feet, they're allowed to make one application every 2 years, which is what this dark blue is here. There's another one. So those are restricted to one application every 2 years.
And then there's, just because I have to say it here, cumulative effects. One of the most prominent brownfields ever was an apple orchard down in one of the Carolinas that had been spraying an EPA approved pesticide for 100 years, and it became so concentrated that it became a brownfield site. Just saying.
That could have been arsenic, because they used to use arsenic in orchards.
It'd be interesting to look at, if there's any data that tracks illness along some of these routes.
Well,
Board of Health, that type of thing.
Ask GE, Kate.
ask them how many dollars they spend on payroll for nighttime applications of PCBs to the Berkshires without anybody knowing it was happening. Tom.
Yes, sir.
Let us know when you want me to take the ride. And I don't like Mondays, and I don't like Fridays, and I don't like early mornings. So get out, and I'll be there. Also, Tuesdays and Thursdays for the rest of this month. 11:30 to 12:30 isn't any good because I got PT.
John, I would like to go too, if it's okay.
Yeah, somebody younger than my ancient age ought to get on this bandwagon. I was going to suggest Jamie because she looks like she's better company than you are, but I'll take her.
Thank you, John.
All right.
I don't know if my schedule is as restrictive as yours.
All right.
Jamie's up for the breakfast run.
I'll go one way, you can go the other way.
All right.
All right. So rather than continue this on all night,
yeah,
we see what you're going to do. John's going to go for a ride. There's not much we can do to stop it anyways. So
one more thing. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Ron, but can you, whoever's driving the truck, can he bring a copy of this plan with him?
Oh yeah, I'll be there.
Okay, I just like to follow along on the map as we're going along.
Oh yeah.
So we'll continue this until the next meeting, and when John will have had a chance, hopefully, to have ridden the rails and agreed with what you're proposing. Proposing. Is that good?
Yep.
Tom.
Okay. Yeah, and that's the 27th is your next hearing.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So then we'll have to try and set something up for next Wednesday, because you
Let me look at this calendar. Yeah, it sounds good, but hang on.
Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, you said you're not available.
Saturday and Sunday.
And nothing before 10 o'clock.
I can do next Wednesday.
Wednesday's good for me. 420 is kind of, it's a religious holiday, so that's not so good. But anyway, yeah, Wednesday's great, which is the 21st, right?
Let me see what I can work out with the railroad, and I will get back to you.
Okay.
All right. And John, let us know. Thanks.
Tom, you want my direct information?
Do you still have the same email as you did 5 years ago?
jhart29960 at AOL.
I think I got it.
All right. Cell number, you want that?
Sure, I'll take it if you want to give it to me.
It's 413-717-2364.
Got it. Okay, I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to it.
Okay, have a good night.
So John, you got a hobo outfit you can wear on this?
I'll see if I can find one. But I really think that, Jamie and Patrick ought to come on this, even if one of them
I
has to
can
ride.
go Wednesday, the 21st, John.
You what?
I can go the 21st.
Well, I think you should. I mean, Patrick, and if you want to come, you can ride in the back of the truck.
And is it one of those hand carts that we have to pump?
No, it's a pickup truck.
No.
Oh,
The
come on.
only thing I'll say is we're going to be limited to two visitors, because there's me and the pilot, and
All right, Jamie can go if she wants. It's up to you guys.
Coin.
Well, you guys figure that out.
All right.
So Tom, best time for me in Hussey to be picked up would be like 11 o'clock a.m.
Okay.
If you want 10 a.m., I might show up in my bathrobe, but
Yeah.
Okay.
but give me a call and let me know. I don't care.
I can ride in the truck bed.
All right, I'll let you know. Have a good night.
Bye, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you.
Looks like we're gonna have 6 notices of intents and requests for determinations.
We're all good on signatures, so we're good. Everything is gonna go out this week.
Oh, goody, goody. Mackinac Terrace Association, that's the steps going down to the water.
Yeah, I think we want to take a look at that because
Yeah, well, we've seen it once, but I want to look at it again with their.
a number of those properties are a little too straight and a little too concerning in terms of stuff just washing down. So we want to take a look at that, I'm sure. And I'm sure White will know. So I imagine we've also got, do you remember, Ron, the pond by the Morrises down there that was across from Tom Farley's place?
Yes.
They're gonna file for that.
All right. Is that Graylock?
Yes,
Okay.
that's gonna be complicated, but they've been talking to Mark. So I think that'll be okay eventually.
There's some drainage issues coming down off that field they cleared.
Right. Well, they fixed that,
No,
presumably.
Not for a gully washer, they didn't.
Any other business?
Yeah.
Oh.
2 things. Number 1, we spoke about writing a letter in support of the folks in Lee who are trying not to have a PCB dump in their town. And I think we should take further action in that respect. Also, another thing is on the minutes that we receive, I believe, like we used to have, it would say members present and members absent. And I think
I've never said members absent. I've always said members present.
I don't know.
I can do members absent if you want, but I've never done that.
Well, I just think we might get some member absent participation if we had that.
Yeah, let me make a phone call or 2.
Thank you.
And
Go ahead.
I just had a quick question, and I apologize if I missed it. Did we ever get the information on 50 Lake Drive? Remember the sewer question? We were waiting for Jim Wiltz.
Not that I'm aware of. I haven't seen it.
So we're still waiting?
I think so.
Okay, thanks.
With regard to the letter for the town of Lee, is that something that people want to stay away from? Patrick, you might want to talk about this, or do we want to?
Go ahead.
The prior select board obviously signed a contract that endorses the settlement agreement. The Houstonic Group has filed a lawsuit in Superior Court, as you know, basically trying to invalidate the right for select boards to sign contracts, which is in all likelihood going to go nowhere because there's no way to manage the town if select boards can't file contracts. The federal, the appeal of the to the EPA is probably 8 months out from being ruled on, and then it's probably 2 years in the First Circuit Court of Appeals. So my sense is this is proceeding. You know, I'm not going to tell this body that it can or cannot show solidarity with Lee. Just understand that, you know, that that the select board signed a contract and is a party to the settlement agreement that currently exists. The only other thing I would point out is that this is one area where, you know, Stockbridge's needs may not be completely aligned with Lee's needs. There's 6 bridges between the Eagle Bridge, the Eagle Dam, not bridges, there's 6 dams between the Eagle and between Glendale. And all of those dams have impoundments of PCB laden soil, silt behind them. And the Eagle Dam especially is rotting. And I am hoping this thing gets resolved pretty darn quick, because if one of those dams gets breached and those PCBs flow south onto our floodplains, we're really screwed. So I would only encourage us to recognize that, while I completely, the best thing that could happen was, President Biden comes up with an extra 300 million and we truck all the PCBs out of state. But in the absence of that, I'm really hoping that we deal with the dam issue sooner rather than later, so that basically our entire floodplain doesn't get wrecked by flooding PCBs.
Can I just, I just wanted to add that I know this is so controversial, but it was my understanding that we saved millions and millions of dollars by signing this compact. And I know that having PCBs not too far away from us is not ideal, but at least they are going to get cleaned up. It did get resolved quickly. Each town saved millions of dollars in litigation and time. And so I don't know, we just, it's just a bad situation, but, but getting hung up in court for years and years, like Patrick said, is not going to be helpful either. So I guess, just to be pragmatic, and I'm not saying that I want a toxic dump and leave, but it's not as if it's better to get it out of the river and get it, get it out of our, the habitat.
I just want to say that my particular family, every single member of my family has experienced breast cancer. And I blame it squarely on the PCBs. We have an incredible incidence of breast cancer in Berkshire County. And I have some really serious concerns about having PCBs anywhere near anywhere I am.
Well, you don't play golf, Sally. So, I mean, if the dam breaks and the golf course gets flooded with PCBs, we don't have to worry about it.
My cousins lived right next to the Housatonic River.
I just think it's a bad idea. I think they should be taken out to Nevada and put in that hole in the ground.
Yeah. So do we all,
All right, one more thing.
Well, wait, I have something too.
Performance standards.
Yes. So Lisa, we talked about, trying to come up with some regulations around buffer zones and all sorts of things that come up over and over again. And, our town wetlands bylaw allows us to develop what's called performance standards. And so, we're thinking that we want to put some in place.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
So
I don't know why.
Performance standards, do you mean like standard orders of conditions? Is that what this is?
I was thinking more like expectations of what we expect from folks who are applying to do work, like how much buffer zone, I mean, a lot of these are postage stamp plots, but folks, I think that the more that we can give people a sense of what our expectations are, then they'll come in with plans that reflect those expectations. And the bylaw specifically allows us to develop these sorts of, guidelines and recommendations. And we were thinking maybe we wanted to. Our town council has offered to help, and in fact, has put them in place in other communities.
Great.
So really, it's around just sort of like, as a group, we kind of need to figure out how to proceed.
Okay.
Patrick, have they done this in other communities, these performance standards?
Yeah, Donna said she strongly encouraged us to do it and said that she could help us because they put them in place elsewhere.
Have you seen copies of these, or?
I haven't. I really felt like we need to figure out sort of how we want to proceed before, I didn't want to, overstep. So,
Yeah, I guess my one question, a couple things. One, I think you can base them on your existing bylaws. So you don't have to, rewrite anything. You just have to pull out what you have in your bylaw already
Right.
and write it up as a performance standard. But I would also say to think about standard orders of conditions, which are even stronger. So for every loss of buffer zone, for every invasive management plan, you don't have to be repeating the same things over and over. You can just say these are the standard conditions that we apply.
That's for me. I'm not here.
Okay. So, I think that's a good idea. If I can help with that, I'd be happy to help with that.
Yeah, I think that would be great. And I'd be happy to kind of work with whoever the board wants to designate along with Donna.
All right.
Maybe Donna could send us a list of what they've done. And what she might suggest based on our current bylaws.
Well, what I would love to see is, like, now that I'm sort of the select board representative and not on the Concom anymore, it'd be great if, if we could designate a Concom member to be sort of the liaison, to this project. And maybe the three of us could have Donna and that person and me, and I could have, a conversation to kick this off.
Sounds good.
We need a starting point.
Yeah.
That's why I was suggesting that maybe she could send us a list of what other communities have done or what she might recommend. At least it gives us something to think about before we go forward.
This brings to mind the project that's going on down in Mackinac Shores with the excavators sitting there, and the plans that were submitted to us, and then what really happened. I'm an advocate for, we'll go for a site visit. Yeah, you look at the plans and all that good stuff. And then, we approve the project, and then all of a sudden they get going on the project and it's not done to plan. So I think there needs to be a fail safe somewhere in the middle of there. A second site visit when stage one of the project is done or something to prevent that kind of stuff from happening.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, that John, what happened there is a violation of the special permit that they got from the planning board.
No, it's a violation of that and everything else that they did.
Yeah, and the building inspector could do something about that.
So Kate, has planning talked about enforcement on that?
Nope.
Okay.
So
all right, well, just getting back to performance standards, what I could do is set up a call to see if Michael wants to participate, and maybe one member of this body, so we don't have a subcommittee, and me, and sort of have a Zoom with Donna and just talk to her about what she's done in the past, and see if we can get some samples. So who maybe wants to try to set up a Zoom with me and Michael and Donna?
Jamie.
I could do that.
You got her hand.
Jamie does.
Okay.
I'm fine.
And I can get you orders of conditions that we've used in Great Barrington.
That would be helpful.
Yep.
Okay.
And did we kick around the idea of like a conservation agent to work with planning board and conservation to help with these? I know we've probably missed the cycle, but
I brought it up about 10 times, Jamie, and it didn't really go anywhere this year. I'm not quite sure why. The budget's not finalized yet. I can bring it up again. I mean,
no, I think we might have missed the cycle, like the window of opportunity this year, but maybe it's for next year.
I'm just saying the budget's not complete yet. Not completely sure we've missed it, but I have brought it up a couple times, and nobody was opposed to it. It's just that there's just so much going on with this year's budget and warrant, and I think that it's just one of those things that town hall hasn't had a chance to focus on yet. Because
I'm not complaining. I'm just reminding.
So Ron, can I make a comment?
Sure, Kate.
Yeah. So this sounds really good to me. I'm glad this is being brought up at Concom, and I would also encourage you to be thinking about education outreach. raising awareness with, like people around the lake and elsewhere that, what these best practices really are. A lot of times, there's just, I think that maybe hearing from a town board like the Concom would help. And a lot of times also you're dealing with, folks who, landscape workers and so on, who just sort of going through the motions, and people just aren't thinking about the issues. So, I think if you could think about doing some educational outreach, potentially that might be helpful.
Well, we had that little brochure thingy that we were talking about doing.
Yeah, I know, and I that's on my to-do list. So I'll try to get that in the next 2 weeks going. Let me make a note so I don't forget.
Yeah, I mean, that's the type of thing that when the tax bills are made out, potentially sent out, potentially, an informational flyer could be sent out with the tax bills.
That's exactly how I received that.
Yep. So then I have two other things that, so we have a plan on starting to figure out performance standards. Two other things. The select board is interested in reviving our agriculture and forestry commission. It's, I believe, Article 25 of the bylaws. We have two really excellent candidates with a farming background. We can basically, there's basically 3 commissioners and 2 alternates, so we have 5 slots total. But if you know of anybody or anybody wants, especially with on the forestry side, participate in this, with what's going on at Ice Glen and some of the other forestry properties in town, I think that both farming and forestry need to have representation on this thing to try to sort of, help us manage some of these projects and move them along. And
Is it an existing commission, Patrick?
What's up?
Does it exist?
Yeah, it's already in the bylaws. It's just nobody was appointed to it for like 10 or 20 years, as far back as anyone can remember. So, I brought up, we had on our climate MVP program, we had a young man who really spoke eloquently about sustainable farming. He works at Woven Farms. And so I subsequently talked to him, and then Christine's husband, Eric, who's got a tremendous background in farming, has also thrown, his hat into the volunteer ring here. And so I just wanted to see if, we could sort of also maybe recommend candidates or try to find candidates who come to it with sort of an interest in looking at the town's forests, because, I think that over the next coming years, we're going to have more and more issues with our forests, like what's going on at Ice Glen right now. By the way, we did sign the contract with Ken Gooch at Ice Glen. So he's going to start work on that in the next week or so in terms of GPS mapping all the old growth trees and doing an evaluation on their condition. So, that's starting to proceed. I think I heard we got a little coverage in the Eagle last weekend on that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that was great coverage. I will think about that. I don't know how much more time I have, but I will think about that for
Have you guys had any conversations about the Right to Farm initiative? Because I heard from someone that there's some environmental implications of that act.
Yeah, it's like runoff from farms into Stockbridge Bowl. Only
Yeah, it
one
means you
farm
can't-
comes to mind, however.
And that farm's not really in most of that farm's in Lee.
Not all of it, Patrick.
No, I understand.
The thing is that there are by rights on the state for farming activities that are not necessarily all that great for the resource areas, but can't be restricted in the same way that we really can't do very much about the practices on rights of way. The fact that they can apply herbicides within 10 feet of a wetland is just a disgrace, I think. And the fact that we can't regulate the kinds of things that they do to maintain their right of ways is also a disgrace.
Are we talking about farms or trains?
Both.
Oh.
Because there are regulations, the regulations in the Wetland Protection Act have exemptions that apply to maintaining rights of way and farming practices. If somebody's been farming for a really long time and all their stuff goes downhill into the
Right.
river, there's really nothing we can do about it.
Yep.
But we can encourage sustainable farming and micro farming and sort of all the best practices to go with that. And I would expect that our commission would be taking that on. So my understanding that mostly what the right to farm bylaw does is it protects farms from nuisance lawsuits by neighbors who don't like the crows or not the crows, the roosters roosting or the cows cowing or whatever they kind of do.
But I think
don't really-
the right to farm, I think, is absolute. There are a couple of conflicting things that I've read about where the jurisdiction or where you get that, and it was 5 acres. I thought 5 acres, if you had 5 acres, you could farm anything you wanted to, and nobody could say anything at all. I mean, you could have 57 roosters crowing at 6
As long as
a.m.
if you make $500 a year in farming revenue, you can have all of your land reclassified at a much lower tax rate too.
I'm gonna
Right,
start
but-
growing pot.
But I heard someplace else that it was only an acre.
I think it's
Good
5
farm.
acres. Well, I don't know if it's 5 acres. It's $500 in revenue.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah.
So,
I
look,
guess I
I
just think since our table of uses allows agricultural uses, I think it'd be worth understanding the pros and cons of the right to farm.
Well, Stockbridge had a commission years ago, I forget how many years ago, to explore the right to farm, which I was on.
Yeah.
And I believed that we had adopted it, but apparently we did not.
Yeah. And this is a really important to Chuck, and I think that it's going to be on the warrant. If the town wants to support it, great. If they don't want to support it, great. But I'm sure the select board is going to refer the standard right to farm language, which is a bylaw template that the state has. I'm sure the select board is going to refer it to town meeting. Now we can have a discussion of it, but I think I think it's highly unlikely that this is the one that is really important to Chuck, and I'm going to sort of defer to him on this one, at least personally. So
Chuck's got some great property there for growing pot.
Okay.
Anything else? Any other business? Somebody make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we close this hearing on this day.
I second.
All in favor? Say good night.
Hi.
Aye.
Good night. Thank you, Ron and Sally.
Thank you.
Thank
Good night.
you.
Rails, Jamie.
Night.